together and co-create in this session. And the more that you write down and make these ideas into reality for your business, the better. And it's been really fun because this is the third session, and I've already had some people contacting me and just letting me know some of the strategies that they're already starting to implement in their businesses just based on this session. And that has been such a wonderful experience, and really fun to see the energy starting to build. So, question, does this sound like you? You were busy with a lot of activities, with more channels, more programs, and more stakeholders. Does this sound like you? You're getting business primarily through referrals and not finding it through other methods. Does this sound like you? You have thought about pursuing different strategies, but have been not able to turn it from idea to execution. Or does this sound like you? You feel dissatisfied or awkward. Our feelings or our emotions are a guide for us. And if you are in a marketing mode and you feel awkward or uncomfortable, maybe you're not doing the thing that's right for your business, right? I mean, there's different types of discomfort. There's the kind of discomfort that you get at the gym and when you're working muscles that you maybe haven't worked in a while and you really need to get going with that. That's kind of the good kind of discomfort, but then there's the bad kind of discomfort where you're thinking, you know what, there's something wrong with this situation that I need to change. So if you're feeling dissatisfied or awkward, maybe it's time to make a change. So, and as a fast action bonus today, I actually have this list of 50 lead gen ideas, and these are all ideas that have actually worked for me or my friends in the industry. So these are 50 lead gen ideas that have actually worked for me, my clients, or my friends. So these are not academic. This is very much stuff coming from a practitioner. So if you're sort of looking for neat ideas to kind of build yourself out in terms of your business, this is definitely a great place to start. And I'll give you the link to it at the end of the webinar. So what you'll learn today is how to get the marketing results you need using an easy step-by-step method, and most importantly, you will get these results by spring. So this is me and my aha moment. So you can see this image. This is me in my car. The image is black and white because I was commuting very early in the morning to work. I would leave before my two young children woke up, and I'd come home an hour before they went to sleep. I had had a business before where I had $200,000 in my pocket a year, but unfortunately with the challenges of motherhood and all of that stuff and me wanting to focus on the kids, I had moved back into a corporate role. And I was working really, really hard in that role and just was putting in so many hours, but honestly, I felt like I was spinning my tires a lot of the time. And although the picture isn't completely horrible, I'm looking down and I'm not feeling super happy about my destination, okay? So that was kind of me about a year ago. And I had this other part of my life too, which is my family, which is huge, which is everything to me. My two kids, AJ and Violet, and my husband as well. So these guys are just giant in my life, and definitely wanted to have that connection deeper with them in terms of this time. And of course, I had a lovely people around me. So this was my team, or two members of my team. I was a manager for a very long time, ever since the age of 22. So I had Priya and Prachi, those were two team members. And of course, I had my beautiful and wonderful coach, Claudine Pereira. She goes by the Pink Coach, and she's just such a wonderful person, all branding done by an attendee on this webinar, Igor, and she has just really transformed my life. So I had a support system around me at that time. And when I was seeing the need for change, when I was seeing there was a contrast between what I was living and what I wanted to live, I became obsessed with a process. And a little bit about me in terms of my background. Early on in my career, I was actually featured by Google as a best practice in franchise marketing. Okay, so I love PPC and was featured by Google, which was like a huge feather in my cap back early in my career. Also, more recently, I was actually asked to be a speaker at the International Franchise Association in Denver, which was really exciting. I was in a case study by Leadpages, a premier provider of website landing pages, which I use all the time now and obsessed with, so no wonder I was a case study. Also, I've been asked to speak at University of Toronto and Queen's University, okay? And in terms of my corporate background, I've worked for everyday household brands that you probably recognize on the screen, and I really hope to bring some of the knowledge from those brands to a wider audience. And this is why these webinars are such a huge dream for me, is because I get to do more outreach than I ever was before. In franchising, I also got to help hundreds of businesses across the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and it was huge when people would come to me and say, you know, Steph, thanks to you and all the digital marketing strategies, I was able to have the retirement that I wanted. Thanks to you, I was able to make a down payment on my home. Things like that really make me feel good, and really glad that I could be helping through franchising these hundreds of business. So here was the old process, and this was the process during that time of frustration. So the process was plan, budget, execute, and report. Or it would just be someone popping their head into my office and saying, Steph, you got to get this done, and you got to get it done right. I don't care how you do it. It's just got to happen. Or there'd be multiple people sticking their heads in my office and saying, here's all the things that you need to get done. Or maybe the same person again and again. But you get the idea. There's a lot of get it done and get it done right, which I think a lot of us can relate to. So here was the process, the different process that I learned to love and have adopted in my new business. And instead of doing the planning from the outset, you're actually doing the planning at the end. Okay, so that's like the big aha moment. So you're starting off with insight, test, unite, scale, and then you plan. So let's talk about this. So there's something called the Agile process, and I know that there's some technical people who've signed up for this webinar and you know all about the Agile process. But for those of you that don't, this is a process which is all about flexibility in software development. Okay, and this helps people become more flexible in terms of their process. So there's two different types of development frameworks out there, and probably 10% or so maybe still use the waterfall and 90% use Agile. Okay, so waterfall is where everything is planned up front and you are writing out the specifications and you're writing like a giant cookbook of what the software needs to be ahead of time. Okay, you also have a very predictable schedule in terms of that style. The other type of development framework is called Agile, and this is where you don't have all of the stuff up front. You really focus on 2 to 3 week sprints, and you only have kind of a rough plan, and then you sort of move forward in that Agile way. Okay, so waterfall, the big problem with it, and the reason why it's fallen by the wayside for the most part, is very inflexible. I mean, can you imagine developing technology and it's taken 2 years for you to write the instruction sheet? Guess what? Technology has likely changed. Whereas in the Agile world, you can stay up with changing requirements, you can stay up with changing technology, etc. Okay, so Agile is really the way to go in terms of software development, and I think that really marketing has to move into these same ways. Okay, so and realistically, just like anyone, just like any business, just like anything, a lot of times there's no plan. It's just a get it done mentality, right? And what happens when you have just the get it done mentality is you get a lot of projects starting and few finishing. You make people happy when you say, yes, I can do that. But by the time it comes to execution, you've already made 10 other people happy saying that you could do their thing, and then you can't actually finish anything. And in the end, you get no results. It becomes like a shell game where you're just sort of like, oh, eventually someone's going to come and say that, where is my project, and it won't be complete, right? So that's not the best. Whereas Agile, you kind of have that best of both worlds where you can integrate pieces of what people need, but you can still stay on that rough plan that you built from the beginning. So, question, what are the faces of it didn't work? It didn't work leads to cynicism. It leads to embarrassment that, this is something that I was part of and it didn't work. It leads to a hot potato, a corporate hot potato that gets passed around. And what happens to the individual, and this is actually based on the survey. I know some of you guys filled out a survey that I sent out when I began my business, asking what the biggest challenge was as entrepreneurs. And a lot of entrepreneurs said that I only rely on word of mouth. Well, what happens when your marketing initiatives don't work and you're an individual? You just go back to relying on word of mouth, and you reduce the size of your goals, right? So, I mean, if you're happy with the word of mouth, that's cool. But if you want something different, and if you joined our lead gen clinic, probably you do want something different. If you do want something different, don't reduce the size of your goals. Keep pushing for them, but use a new process that works better. So let us think different. Let's get away from the negativity and get into that positive framework that will get you the leads that you need. So here's an insight, and this is all about insight. You need to understand your prospect better than they understand themselves. This is the #1 underlying thing that will bring you the most success in terms of this model. How do you do this? If it's an existing target, you have lots of information sources, right? You have yourself if you're customer facing. You can simply reflect. You have your sales team. I mean, everybody has their biases, but a sales team actually are out there and they're tasting what's going on in that outside world, and they can give you a huge amount of insights. You can talk to the customers themselves and see what's going on. Have those big conversations with them about what their goals are and what their dreams are and what they wish and what their biggest challenges are. You can have those conversations. We don't have those every day, but this is the time to do it. You can do a demographic analysis on your current customer database. Okay? If it's a new target, you can rely on survey research and competitive analysis, which I'll get to in a few moments. So existing targets, so we talked about some of those information sources. You want to figure out who your decision makers are and who their influencers are, and can you easily group these like people together? If it's a new target, you can do some survey research. So there's a really, really neat method out there, and it's built by a gentleman named Ryan Levesque. He wrote a book, and it's a bestseller. It's called The Ask Method. And even if you go to his website, there's also lots of downloadable worksheets and that kind of stuff. And the basis of this is to ask your customer what their single biggest challenge is. Okay, and this is a prospect, right? So I have a software developer, kind of app developer out in the UK who I work with, and they don't talk to their customers every day, right? The customers download from the App Store or the Android Store, so they can't talk to them. They look at reviews, but we really needed to know more about them, so we used a survey method in terms of reaching out to that group. So we asked them, what is your single biggest challenge? And the neat thing is based on the way that they answer the question, you can see how much pain they're in. And the bigger the pain, the more determined they will be in terms of finding a solution. Okay? So when I did my survey, for example, which used the ask method, some people just said, my problem is leads. They gave me one word, they gave me leads. Whereas other people wrote a whole book about the problems that they are experiencing. They were talking about the wish to have people appreciate software development nowadays, and that it has to be quality and it has to be done right, and that people don't necessarily see that nowadays, and just kind of going on and on and on. And that is really, really powerful, right? Like that they have that much pain that they want to share with you through your survey. So the more people talk, the more in pain they are. And for this app developer, we actually did interviews afterwards where we're doing calls with people to see and get really deep into that pain and learn about what we could do to help them, okay? So the other piece is surveying more informally. So if you're a single owner operator, and write this down, right? This is all great planning, is you can just talk to people and talk to people who are users of your product or service, or if they use competitors. I mean, this is a beautiful conversation to have, and you'll probably get a ton of insight out of it. So anytime that you're building a program like this, and anytime that you are communicating in terms of message, you want to do one of three things. You want to, 1, educate, 2, entertain, and 3, empower. And the neat thing about all of these things is that they are definitely in the eye of the beholder. Okay, so something that is very appealing to one target market isn't appealing to another. So I formerly worked for 3M Healthcare, and at the time I had a boss who had all over our marketing material someone he called Babe. And Babe was this very attractive woman in her 20s, and looking at it and looking at my target market, I was thinking, you know what, maybe this isn't quite right in terms of the imagery. Now, the target market were women between the age of 45 and 60. And I did a quick workshop and asked people around a conference, because this was a type of industry where they had conferences all the time. And I said, you know, is this appealing to you, and what would be more appealing? And what we ended up coming out with was still a very attractive woman and a very attractive man, but both of them were much more professional looking and about 15 to 20 years older. Okay, so it was more of an idealized version of the target market themselves. Now, my boss, if I was targeting the same demographic as my boss, I would have used Babe, no problem. It's not about, you know, what I think is right or wrong. It's about what really touches the target market. Okay, so it's really neat. I mean, you can really figure out a lot of things about the people in your target market. You can figure out what they care about in terms of education by looking at their LinkedIn profile and where did they get educated, and where did they do courses? What is compelling to them? You can see how they're entertained or empowered through Facebook to see what they like. Someone who likes sports, well, that tells you something about them, right? If they really love sports, what is it? I'm not saying that you should be having football all over your marketing. What I'm saying is that maybe someone who loves sports is all about winning and achievement, and maybe you can think about doing some entertaining content in terms of winning and achievement, right? So think about that. Think about, maybe write these three down, think about your target market, and think about the different messages that would really, really touch them in terms of this, right? It's not rocket science, but it's a whole bunch of empathy. And I work with a lot of millennials in my life and in terms of the coaching that I do, and I tell them that, you know, marketing nowadays is all about empathy and it's all about understanding, okay? So some people have been asking me, what is an avatar? So you can see this is an avatar here, and this is where you can group like traits together into a person, right? So here's an example of a caring coach parent that I created for one of my clients. So you can see they have their goals and values, they have their challenges and pain points. There's a beautiful image of the person with their age and gender. There's actually a quote, because we did do some research with them, so I had real quotes from people of each type. There's the sources of information and the objections and roles in the purchase process. Now, going into this level of detail isn't for everyone, but just talking about the goals and values and talking about their demographics and talking about their pain points is enough to really start to crystallize who your avatar is for your business. So basically, marketing nowadays is all about human connection. So back in the day, we used to watch TV ads, right? And I think some of you may on the line now, I'm familiar with some of you, you may be too young for this, but maybe not. I mean, we used to get interrupted and be forced to watch TV ads, right? And nowadays, we have to join the conversation. We are now joining a party when we market, rather than interrupting a party like the Kool-Aid Cool Man, where we're jumping through a wall, right? For the people that may be 80s kids like myself. So you don't want to get too close too soon, because that's too aggressive. And you want to seek to understand. People only care what you know if they know that you care. So we have a psychological experiment, and this was done by Mary Ainsworth, a great psychologist in the early 20th century. And she basically created something called the strange situation, where she was looking at the attachment of children to their mothers. So basically you can have secure attachment or you can have anxious attachment. And most children are actually securely attached to their parents. And they basically had the children be with the caregiver and a stranger came in, and it showed their reaction and whether they were securely attached or anxiously attached, okay? So we learned something through this, that children who are attached to their mother healthily explore and play freely when the caregiver is present. They will engage with a stranger when a caregiver is present. And they're really happy to see the caregiver upon his return or her return. So what does this tell us in terms of marketing, and what's opposite to so much that you currently see in marketing? Well, people need to have a safe base. You need to reach them where they are. They're not where you want them to be. They are where they are right now, and it's really important for you to understand that. You don't need to shout. You don't need to shout. You definitely don't, and you definitely want to speak to them in a way that's comfortable. People will engage with you when they have a safe base. So again, listen first if you can. And if you're listening through research, or if you're listening through a survey, or you're just listening to understand what's important to them, all of that's important. And you also want to start from their needs. And your internal goal, enjoy the journey, have fun. This is marketing, right? And this is human connectedness. We all crave human connectedness, and you want to enjoy this journey. Another internal goal, you want to elevate every room that you walk into. Whether you're walking into a real room in terms of a networking event, or you're walking into a virtual room in terms of doing digital advertisements, you want to elevate it. You want to make the room smarter. You want to make the room more beautiful. You want to make the room more empowered. You want to elevate that room. And are you doing that in terms of your current marketing materials? So the next part of this journey is to test. Now, instead of relying on one big bang and making one giant marketing investment, you want to do a lot of smaller initiatives. So you don't necessarily have to publish that you're doing these, 4, 5, 6 different initiatives. Maybe tell people that are close to you, tell your boss, but don't necessarily publish it to the world, because sometimes people don't understand this trial and error approach. But you want to test lots of things. When you test, they don't need to be perfect. This is not the neighborhood that you're going to live in. This is just a test. You start small and you get fancy later. And you make it an educated guess based on the work that you did in terms of insight. Now, because this is called the Lead Gen Clinic, I wanted to take a moment while we're talking about test to generate some test ideas. And this slide has generated a huge amount of creativity out in the network. So get your thinking caps on and think about if any of this would work for you. And again, these are all tested and proven by a practitioner. I am not an academic. I am in the trenches every single day doing this work. So what is working now? One thing I would strongly recommend is Google Remarketing. That basically every time someone comes on your site, they get a cookie dropped on their browser, and then messages from your site follow them around the web. Now, this is powerful for a few reasons. First of all, they're already warm traffic. If you get a 15% conversion rate on your website, that means 85% of visitors did not contact you. So the more repetition that they have as they travel around the web, the better. So remarketing is super powerful. Facebook has a version of it called Facebook retargeting, where you can pixel on your website and you can retarget through Facebook. Another super, super powerful method. Another item that I would strongly recommend, and this is very low budget or no budget, is Facebook Live. I actually got many of the registrants for this marketing webinar today. I actually got them through Facebook Live, and I got them at about 50 cents in registrant, okay? So basically I did a Facebook Live one morning saying, hey, I'm doing this Lead Gen Clinic, please join me. I put a $15 boost on it, and I got 30 registrants from it, okay? So this was a very, very easy thing to do. It was done with a tripod with that little attachment that you put your iPhone on, and it was a little bit of value-add content, but mostly just inviting people to the webinar with a button on it about, to go to my sign-up page. So Facebook Live with a small boost is a really, really great way. I boosted it directly to people who like my page and their friends. That was it. Not rocket science, but it definitely did a huge amount for this webinar registration. So I also did Facebook promotions to friends and people who and friends of people who like your page. That's huge, as I mentioned. Email marketing, it still works. It's not over yet, but you definitely want to boost it with social media marketing. So one thing that you can do is you can actually upload custom lists to Facebook, and you can get that to be marketing as well, right? So basically, you upload your email list to Facebook and you create a custom audience, and then you can target people that way. Okay, so this is something I use in my business as well, and it's really, really handy. So it's those custom audiences that I strongly recommend you look at. PPC doesn't work in all markets, but definitely it still works in some. Targeted email lists of friends or of other business organizations similar to yours. Webinars, of course, and public relations. I actually have a client in the automotive industry who sells software for cars, and basically what I do is I ghostwrite for him articles, and those articles appear on a kind of industry website. And every time we publish an article, he gets 100 to 200 downloads. So he's making like $30,000 within 5 days of publishing these articles. That can be huge and a big opportunity. So never forget public relations. Doesn't have to be so formal anymore. It can be, but not necessarily. But also this guerrilla kind of partnership, kind of connecting with your press in your industry can be huge, okay? So hopefully one of these will spark something, or many of these, so you can think, wow, I want to test, I want to do a whole bunch of this stuff and see what actually generate leads for my business. What are some tools? Well, of course, lead pages, as I mentioned. Canva, this is a really low-cost way to create graphics. Upwork, you can have Upworkers. You may not want to use their stuff as final. I mean, you want to use a professional designer for your final stuff, but Upworkers can help as a low-cost solution in the meantime. And then, of course, Google Analytics to measure your tests. So now let's talk a little bit about the approach. And I talked earlier about not wanting to be the Kool-Aid cool man, not wanting to be that person that bursts into the lives of others. You want to be more gentle, and you want to approach people in a way that's more natural for human beings, right? So basically we have 3 types of traffic. We have cold traffic, and that's people on other people's media, such as a Google campaign or a Facebook campaign or an email list of somebody else. So that's cold. They don't really know you. You have warm traffic. That's somebody who's shown initial interest in your business. So they might be in your email list, they might be on your Facebook list, they might be on your Google remarketing list. So these are people that know you but haven't bought from you yet. Then you have hot traffic. These are people that have already bought, and that doesn't mean that you should stop marketing, right? There's still lots of upsell opportunity for the hot people. So what do you want to do? I should have said hot leads, but not hot people, so my apology. Okay, so we have the cold, warm, and hot. Now, what do we want to do with them? Well, for cold, you want to get them to subscribe. And one way to get people to subscribe is by creating something called a lead magnet. What is a lead magnet? A lead magnet is a piece of information that's of very high value to your target audience, okay? So a webinar can be a lead magnet. A blueprint can be a lead magnet. A case study, a swipe file. These are all great examples of lead magnets. It's saying, in exchange for this valuable thing I'm giving you, I would like to get your email address. And it's just so much more gentle, and it's just so much more open than trying to sell and being in people's face right away. The warm, this is when you can start to actually sell. So don't sell to cold. Try to sell to warm. And this is where you can actually try to get them to buy. You can get them to do your demo. You can get them to do all that stuff. Then finally, hot is your upsell opportunity. They've already bought from you, but maybe they could buy more. Maybe you have more services. Maybe you can add ACT to the enrollment. Maybe you can get them to buy another module. Maybe you have a new service that would be really, really useful for them. So this is your upsell opportunity, and it's a lot easier to get people to buy who've already bought from you than to get somebody who's brand new and cold to buy from you, right? So this is a great opportunity. So here's an example that I worked on when I was at Microsoft, and we were doing this initiative, and we had lots of different things going simultaneously for it was a server campaign. We had 4 different things going. We had a site sponsorship, we had PPC marketing, we had direct mail, and we had a discount or deals website. Okay, so that was our first example. And guess what? The site that did the best was the deals site, was that discount website. Okay, and that did very well. What did we end up doing? We ended up going beyond the small sponsored post that we did, and we ended up doing like a full sponsorship of a certain section of that website. We got bigger on that, and we dumped all the others. One thing about testing is that there's no sacred cows, right? So you focus in on the thing that works. Once you find the thing that works, you get rid of all the other stuff, and you focus in on that, all right? The next example is from my own business, and this is when I first started my business. I only started in September. Actually, I more say October because it was quite late in September. And I basically was going to 1 event a week. And I thought if I keep going to different events, I'll figure out what the one right one is for me, or many that are right for me. So I went to startup events, women's events, marketing events. I worked with extended teams, and I was very connected and friendly with them. I did a lot on social media, and I went to my local Chamber of Commerce events. Well, guess what? I got the biggest amount of leads from working on those extended teams, where a developer that worked with me on one project wanted me to work on another. And just that connection with them was what was building my lead base. The other place was my local Chamber of Commerce. And guess what? I'm doing a show with them in February, and I'm tabling, and I'm going big with that event rather than continuing with these others. Now, some of the other types of events, honestly, I just get a lot out of them in terms of connecting with others. But in terms of my business, it's that extended teams and my local Chamber of Commerce. So these are some just really neat examples. So a tip on tests, you want to understand what you're going to test beforehand. Now, I'm a direct marketing girl, so I'm going to talk about the direct marketing stuff, which is leads, sales, downloads, applicants. Things like impressions and that kind of stuff don't matter to me, okay? And that's just my own background, but I think the bias is good for anyone in business, especially smaller businesses. There are no sacred cows. Kill the stuff that isn't working and move on. This is a survival of the fittest situation, and you want to make sure that you're focused on the things that really work. Try to keep the budget as low as possible while still getting a good test. And once you figure out that something is working, retest on different variables. So you can just try, different variables, like a different message to the same target group, or you can test a different different medium that's very similar to the one that you're using now. So, testing on those different variables, like for me in the Chamber of Commerce, maybe I'll try the neighboring city Chamber of Commerce as well, right? So those are really great things to do. So a special note on these, sometimes you get somebody with a mathematical background and they'll come to you and say, you know what, that's not a real test. That's not a perfect test. Well, I'd advise to you not to focus too much on the perfect test. This is marketing. This is not engineering, okay? So let's focus on being creative and trying different things. Make sure that you track which leads are coming in from where. That is a huge thing, but you don't want to get too caught up in building that perfect statistically accurate test. So talked a little bit about retesting earlier. And our next part of the system is Unite. So once you've had some successful tests under your belt, you want to start to unite others behind you. And this can be a forgotten step, but you definitely want to do it because you know what? You don't have to go alone, right? We have this individualistic society where sometimes we feel like, oh, we have to do it alone or we have to go it alone. You know what? You don't have to. And we can all be banding together to make something bigger, like me and my coach and me and my team and me and my family and you and all the people that you care about around you, right? So you want to unite. So you can unite in different ways, whether you're in a corporate environment or if you're in an individual entrepreneur environment. So you can have just individual discussions thinking about the giant pain point for each person and trying to solve their problems. You can have a meeting, and I put a meeting of the minds instead of just a meeting, because sometimes those meetings can be that negative context, but you can really, sometimes really connect at meetings, and that's another way. And the more involved people are, the more engaged they will be in the final decision. So what are creative ways to unite? And you'll see a lot more of this on the Lead Gen Ideas worksheet that I created for you. So you're going to see all these creative ways to unite as well, just in case you're trying to take notes. But you can do some introductory videos. You can get videos of early adopters. You can crowdsource ideas, which means, using a platform to get ideas from many different places. You can use Google Analytics for big decisions. And you can get people on board while enjoying the process. So, when I was younger and doing a lot of PPC stuff, I used to get executives to bet on which Google AdWord text would win. Okay, so they bet because these were betting men and they related to that. And so I got them to bet and they had lots of fun with that. So if you want to unite people by finding the thing that's fun for them and going with it, that's great. So here's a sample that I used quite recently in terms of creating a new branding message for a big organization. So instead of the message coming top down from the marketing team, we actually did the messaging as a committee. So I sent a draft of the text all around to the committee. The end product was actually a video. So we got them to review the script of the video and some of the imagery of the video, etc. It was an exercise in patience, my friends, but you know what? It ended up to be amazing. The messaging got created completely by the group. And then the group, who were very influential in the organization, ended up advocating for the message, right? So they were completely on board, and this was not a top-down initiative coming from corporate. This was a bottom-up initiative, and it was well loved. Now let's think of a smaller example of when I started my previous marketing consultancy, where in the best year I had $200K in my pocket. Now, in that business, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a brand or anything. And what I did was I found people who had skills that were helpful to me, right? So I found designers and I found developers and I found different writers and that kind of stuff. And I asked them to do some work for me for no cost or low cost. Basically, all I asked was that, if they did that work for me, I would do a favor for them. And basically, we created a bit of a network where we were all doing favors for each other, and all of our businesses grew together, right? So if I was a little afraid to ask and I was afraid to unite, this would have never happened. But this all got created based on not being afraid to ask for a favor, but also giving a favor in return. So once you have your tests and you've looked at your results and you completely understand what's bringing you leads and what is not, you have a coin-operated business. And this is where everybody wants to be. So a coin-operated business is where you put a coin in the top, say a 5% investment, and you get a result out, 100%. So you put in a nickel and you get out $1. Okay, so every marketing initiative will either cost you money or time. So maybe your nickel is a virtual nickel in terms of your time, but the idea is that once you find something that works, you just do that over and over and over again. And one thing that's extremely painful is I see people both on marketing teams and also small businesses who keep pushing the same initiatives that aren't working for them, right? Instead of that, test a whole bunch of things at once and then double down, focus on the 1 or 2 things that really work for you. So you're ready to scale. And based on your tests, you want to see what's working, what needs to be tweaked, what could be brought to a different audience. You want to find prices and create a formal budget. Okay, so this is one thing I was really hoping to cover, and it's near the second half, and I've had to jump over the slide before, and I was really sad about it. So I'm super happy that I can talk about it now. So if you're an owner-operator, listen up to this because you're going to love this. This is my scaling guide for bootstrappers, okay? So what you want to do if you're a bootstrapper is you want to start with a small amount of savings, say $300. And $300 to me is actually a lot. That's one of my car payments. So even less, maybe you could take advantage of some free offers from Facebook or Google. Google has a $100 coupon available quite publicly for anyone that wants it. And Facebook, if you have a Facebook page, regularly they do give out free offers of advertising. So maybe that, it's really only 100 and you get some free offers from these places, right? So you start with that and you do various tests with a clear end goal. Based on the success or failures of the test, you reinvest your profit, right? So say you're a graphic designer and maybe you did a test and maybe you got one extra client and that client brought in $1,000. Well, guess what? If you could spare maybe $250 from that $1,000, then you can reinvest in the same thing that got you that original client, right? And that's how you build your business. That's how you fly. That's how you succeed. It's quite straightforward, but it's also quite smart. So once you have your system and your scaling, of course, now you plan, okay? So that's the whole idea, is you went from the planning in the beginning to the planning at the end. And I have some great planning resources, which you can find in the worksheet for download. So I just, pretty much it's written goals, project lists, and Gantt charts, okay? So these are the beautiful planning resources out there. So this is my process, and it goes insight, test, unite, scale, and plan. This is a favorite slide of some of the people who've attended the webinars already. I hope you like it too. Build by Canva, thank you very much. Insight, test, unite, scale, and plan. So why did you show up? First of all, you wanted to get more leads by spring. Second, you wanted to make a change in your business or your environment. And thirdly, you wanted to feel happy and strong and empowered. So question, how can you make this happen by spring? Well, you could go it alone or you could journey with me. If you go it alone, you can find the pieces individually. You can use information that may or may not be up to date. You can go it alone and maybe lose motivation. If you journey with me, you can have a unified system. You can have the latest and greatest used by a current practitioner, and you can have support. Because there is a gap that exists right now. And for a long time, we know that agencies are expensive and many agencies are going by the wayside. They do this typical process, which is kind of like a bait and switch, right? Where you get sold by this amazing owner of the agency and then you end up working with, very junior interns, right? So agencies are expensive and you don't necessarily get the value. Consultants and gurus are only experts of the things that they understand. And this was a really fascinating thing. A few years ago, I was considering getting my PhD and I was courted by one of the local universities and I interviewed with a whole bunch of the professors. And what I learned was that many of the PhDs in marketing are not necessarily practitioners. And the marketing journals that they have written in are not actually read by a practical audience. Many of them have never been on a marketing department other than maybe being an intern in their undergrad, and they've never really run a real campaign. Now, maybe academically, these guys continue to move forward something, but in terms of the practical hands-on day-to-day, taking a university course in marketing might not be the best step. College instructors maybe can be good, but they don't necessarily disclose their results from their campaign. So what's the solution to this and what's the gap that I'm filling? It's this Lead Gen Masterclass. And during my Lead Gen Masterclass, I have an intimate group of people looking to expand their businesses. We meet on a weekly basis for 5 weeks, and it includes a weekly worksheet. Now, if I get more than 10 people who sign up for this masterclass, I'm definitely going to split it up into two. So we'll be on a journey together. So you won't only be connecting with me, but you'll be connecting with other business people around the world. And I actually have people from 4 countries joining these webinars. So this will be a neat opportunity to network as well. So this is a real model for the 2017 environment. You get the entire system presented, but very deep on a weekly basis. You get practical hands-on advice, and you'll get weekly worksheets that you can fill in. You'll get motivation. Hey, 80% of this is a head game, and only 20% of it is practical in reality, right? So you need that motivation, and this will keep you on track in terms of not getting discouraged during that testing phase. And then finally, you'll get connection. So the price of the Lead Gen Masterclass is $199 US, $249 Canadian, and $149 Great British Pounds. And for a limited time when you enroll, I will give 1 free hour of one-on-one coaching. So if you go to this link here, the jbnetwork.co/Lead Gen Masterclass, you can sign up. And again, before January 26th, you'll get that 1 free hour of coaching too. And I think we'll have a lot of fun, and we'll be in a journey together. So my guarantee is that if you don't get results by spring, you will get a free refund. Okay, a full refund, sorry. So I'm not interested in taking your money if you're not getting a huge amount of value from my initiative. So I actually have offered up a similar offer when I had my previous consulting company and now. And I have had probably about 20 clients, and one of them actually took me up on this, and they said, you know what, this isn't, for whatever reason, this isn't working for me, and you know what, I gave him a full refund, okay? So I'm definitely serious about this. I don't want to be part of something that's not successful, and because I'm so confident that you will succeed, I will do that full refund. So the total value, 5 hands-on sessions, 2 worksheets, 1 hour of coaching, that's a total value of $950. Instead, I'm offering it up as $199. Maybe my husband will kill me, but that's okay because I can see that there's so much value in this masterclass. Another option that I'm offering up, my normal rate is $200 per hour in terms of coaching, but in terms of this initiative, I'm actually offering up a package of 5 hours for $100 an hour US, $120 Canadian, and 80 Great British Pounds. So this is where we can do some one-on-one coaching through Skype, and you can work on this at your own pace. Okay, so you can see I have a link here, jbnetwork.co/Lead Gen Coaching, and I'd love to help. And this is all paid on a weekly basis, or if you want to do them once a month, that's cool too. The one thing is I can't guarantee the results by spring. It would have to be summer if it was monthly. But I love coaching, and I love helping people, and it's definitely my passion and the way that I get fulfillment. So what happens next? You can go to one of these 2 links. You can go to the masterclass if you want to be working in more of a group session, or you can do the coaching if you want to work just one-on-one with me. And as promised, I promised 50 lead gen ideas, right? So you can see the link here. It's jbnetwork.co/Lead Gen Ideas. Check it out. These are all practitioner approved, all things that are truly working out there in the marketplace right now. So thank you so very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Over the years, I've had a number of people enjoying their experience of working with me and coaching. So on the left, you can see some testimonials from some millennials who I know and love. And then on the right, you can see some small business people who may be a little bit older than millennials. But I love this stuff, and I love the element of working together hand in hand with people. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick look at questions. So just bear with me because it always takes me a while to open up my little question pane. Okay, there we go. So I see a couple of questions. So the first one is, it says, okay, I'm just trying to get through okay, so in a nutshell, this person is saying that my PPC campaign isn't working. What should I do? So basically, PPC campaigns, definitely something that you want to look at in terms of your lead cost to make sure that your lead cost is reasonable. And in many parts, especially in the US, lead costs are going up. Okay, so hey, maybe this is just something that's really happening in terms of your market, that PPC isn't as effective. One thing that I think you could do in terms of not dumping PPC altogether would be to take a look at doing lead magnets, which I talked about before, which is a high value item, an information item that people can download. So maybe your primary call to action would be book a demo, but you can have a secondary call to action that would be download the blueprint. Okay, so that's just a way to kind of ensure that your PPC is better. So yeah, so it's unfortunate over the years PPC isn't as effective as it used to be. So okay, so the next one is someone asking some details on Facebook Live. Yeah, I love, this is the second webinar where people have really gotten a lot out of this Facebook Live recommendation. So Facebook Live is a really, really great way for you to build your lead base. And if you want to find a really useful kind of topic for your Facebook Live, one thing that I'd recommend is education, right? So you want to give value through your Facebook Live. You want people to look at your Facebook Live and say, I just learned something. Wow, that was really useful, right? And I also recommend a boost on your Facebook Live to people who like your page and friends of people who like your page. If you want to get a little gutsy, you could also do a similar audience, which we could talk about later, but that's the best boost, is the people that like your page and the friends. And if you're getting results from that, then maybe you can consider going further. Okay, so the other piece about the Facebook Live is that you are able to link a boosted post to a landing page. So you probably want to see if you can get them to download a lead magnet or something like that based on your Facebook Live, right? So those are just some ideas. So I got this other funny comment. Someone says, tell that to the TV ads, which are done with loud voices. This is about interruptive marketing. That is true. And that is why so many of us are unsubscribing from TV and we're looking at other options, right? So thank you so very much for joining me today. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Really love to see you guys in my lead gen masterclass or in my coaching. I look forward to connecting more and for us to be on this journey together. And I definitely appreciate you being at this webinar today. I hope you have an amazing and beautiful day. Bye-bye.